Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought I'd just come along and we'll have a little play, just for the sake of having a play. So I've got my Pink Frog Smooth card. I always tend to use the Pink Frog Smooth card for my everyday crafting. This is 300 GSM. So I've cut a piece of card that is 6.5 inches square, and I've cut a card blank that is 7 inches square, and that's what I'm going to use. And the reason I'm coming upstairs to craft is, you know, it's that time of year when you get your Christmas decorations out and you end up with stuff everywhere. Oh, my house has got stuff just everywhere. And it's got so late in the day, after running around all day, I can't be bothered to do it now, so it'll have to wait for another day. So what I thought we'd do is, let's just have a play and let's create a seasonal make. Now, I was looking at my stamps. Now, you can just cut a triangle out, but I was looking at my geometric butterflies and I was thinking this triangle here I can use as a tree. So what I've done is I've stamped the geometric butterfly in my Nocturne black ink. So I'm going to cut that out. You could do it on your paper trimmer if you wish, just so that you get that cut out nice and easy. I like the size of the triangle. You can measure out whatever triangle you wish that fits onto the 6.5 inch square card, or whatever size card that you're deciding to do. So let's just cut this out. Now, if you've got a friend that, you know, adores butterflies, you could even make that into a Christmas card quite easily by making it a tree. So what I'm going to do is, what I always do is, I've checked the size is going to fit on your card nicely, which it'll fit on there really nicely. But I just want to use this as in for the shape, mainly because I like the sort of the fatness of, and it looks like a tree, a Christmas tree. So what I thought I'd do then is I would take my ephemera, TikTok, #26, and use some of my ephemera, because it's nice just to do something a little bit different sometimes. So it's easier for me to just pull a few out rather than faff. In fact, let's just pull the whole lot out. I can't be bothered with faffing. So let's pull all these out, because I can put them into a wallet afterwards. So I can place them into an A6 wallet. So what I tend to do is just fold the top over on my piece of card, like so, and then that will just fit in my A6 wallet. And then I can put all my clocks in there and they're all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of cover the triangle with some clocks. So let's just, did I pull the other stamp out? Oh yes, I did. You know, when you think, did I pull the other stamp out I wanted? So I'm going to just place this here. Obviously you're going to have some overhanging pieces. That's absolutely fine. And then we'll have that clock there. So just add this clock here. I've used these clocks quite a bit. I'm going to need another packet actually. So then I'm going to add, let's add a little bit of a smaller one here. If I miss any adhesive on any part, I can easily go back and add, or you can just put the adhesive on the triangle to make sure that whatever you're using adheres to the areas you want. So let's place that there, like so. Let's just wipe off that excess glue. You just need to give it time. The glue just takes a couple of seconds. Let's just clean that off. The glue takes a couple of seconds to dry. So at the moment it looks like nothing on earth. So then let's grab one of these big clocks and put it here. So just make a collage. It's probably easier just to add the adhesive to your triangle, and then you can add these as well. So I need a bit over there. So let's have this like so. And then we'll have a little clock, a smaller clock. Sometimes it's nice just to play with your ephemera, just to do something a little bit different. Smaller one of these clocks. So you can see I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm not putting pressure on myself to say this has got to go here, this has got to... No, I'm just sort of playing with the ephemera. And you've got so many pieces, you've got 60 pieces in there, so you can spare a few. Let's have one of these. So I'm just layering up my clock images. Let's have a little one. And it's always best if you don't sort of think about it too much. And don't look at the back, because you'll cut it out afterwards and you don't quite know what you're going to get, which is half the enjoyment. Which one do I want now? And what you want to do is just make sure that you just do it randomly. Also make sure, which you can see, it sticks to your non-stick craft sheet, because obviously when you turn it over, you've got all this adhesive just around the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm then going to trim that. So let's trim. Use a good pair of scissors, because you're going through several layers of card. And you could do this with any shape, a heart, a circle, or like me, a triangle. Crikey, that's thick. So then when you cut it out, it looks rather good, doesn't it? Now, I won't actually bin these. I know you may say think I'm absolutely mad, but that, if you just go around there, you could quite easily use that in a project. So I won't bin them. I know some of you probably think I'm absolutely mental, but I won't bin those pieces. But that's because I don't like to waste those little bits. I will, but not the others. So let's just move this out of the way. Actually, we'll give those scissors a little bit of a wipe, and then we'll take my wallet and we'll just place those out of the way at the moment. I'll just... So I can just place them in the wallet, but you don't want to waste something like that. I mean, you can use that somewhere. So that's definitely going back in the wallet. But it's probably better if I let the adhesive that's stuck on there dry a bit. But then this is what you've got. But because it's random, as in you haven't thought about it too much, sometimes you think about things too much, and then they don't appear random because they're too regimented, and that's lovely and random. So then, if I place this on here, this is going to be my tree, which will work rather nicely. But I was thinking that I want it on a blue background. So let's have a look. So I want a nice rich blue, and I want something that's easy to do. I don't want anything too complicated. So what I'm going to do, I've got lots of bits of sticky in here, is I'm just going to do direct to paper because it's nice and easy and I get rich pigment over the card and it works beautifully. Turn your card around and you'll hit different areas with your direct to paper. So turn it round. If you don't want to touch your card, just place your kitchen roll onto your card and you can see it's nothing technical. It's laying down that rich wet pigment onto your card. And what it ensures is, because you're adding pigment this way, sorry, did I tell you I was using Blueprint Sketch? It does help, doesn't it? So I'm using Blueprint Sketch. You can use any blue that you want. And also, you can mop this extra ink up onto another piece of card so that you can create another background. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab my little fan brush. Don't worry if you haven't got a fan brush, use any brush you wish. It's just so I don't want to use my spritzer because I want to use, oh, you should see the colour of this brush, it's hilarious. So let's just try again, preferably with some clean water. So I'm using a fan brush because I'll be able to flick fine bits of water, but because this is rich in pigment, it'll work quite well. So I'm just going to pick up the water, and what this does is, obviously the distress oxides are reactive to moisture, but I'm not making any big splatters, I'm just making fine splatters. So if you haven't got a fan brush, just use a little brush. So I'm just going to continue to go over the card. Let's just keep adding those splatters, sort of building up the splatters. Because you don't want, for one, you don't want to just leave that pigment on there, just sitting on the top. By adding some of this water, it just allows it to react, and the ink is not just sitting slick on the surface. And what you're doing is you're sort of building up that sort of Christmassy feel with the bleached out white areas. And it just works quite nicely. And because I've added that rich pigment, this moisture will react to that beautifully. Now, it's always better if you can just give it a little bit of time just to do its thing, just to allow it to do what it wants to do. Now, if I went in with my spritzer, I would have a lot more bigger splatters. Obviously, there's some of the splatters merge together and make bigger areas, but the finer splatters just work a little bit better for this project. So I'm adding a few more. Just to now, the good thing is, if you allow it to sit there with that moisture on the card, it'll continue to react. If I blot that up, then it'll stop reacting, or if I dry it, it'll stop reacting. So I'm going to let it do its thing. And this will be my tree shape. And then what I'm going to do is take my stag stamp, which is stamp set 805, and I'm going to use that one. Now, you could make a smaller tree with the triangle on this one. There's a triangle on the stag, But let's take the stag stamp. I can't speak at all. But let's pretend this is our card. This is how I end up faffing. So I've got my tree, and you could easily have another smaller tree. You see, this is how ideas develop. But this is why it often takes me 3 times longer than it really should. But hey ho. So there's no room on the desk just for a change. So let's take off, because I need my A5 acrylic block. So let's take off the geometric butterfly. Just place that back. Place that over there. And we'll take the stag. Let's grab that. No, that's my card blank, Tracy. I need some scrap card. Oh, I knew I'd got some scrap card somewhere. So let's take this scrap card, and we'll now use our Nocturne ink. Let's add another tree. So I've got another triangle now on the stag. There we go. And let's stamp that. Stamp it the right way so you can actually see, even though it's going to go the other way. So I'm just using the triangle at the moment. I am going to have the stag as well, I think. But I love how you can mix things up. You can mix your ephemera and everything else up. It's just lovely. I love doing that. Now you can blot your image if you wish. If you're frightened of touching the stamped image and smudging it, just give that a little bit of a blot. As I say, you don't have to have these stamps. You can just cut out a triangle. This just makes it easy for me. There we go. So where's the other? So bring in this tree, and we're going to use this triangle, because what I'm thinking is it can sort of go together. We'll work it out anyway. So now I've put the clocks away. I need the clocks again. But that's what happens when you're sort of working off the cuff. That's all part of it. So I'm going to take my adhesive and use the triangle. Let's just add some adhesive to the triangle. And then we'll add our clocks. Let's make sure that they don't look exactly the same. So don't sort of, if you can, try not to look at your other tree shape, so that you don't, you can even use these half ones. I told you they'd come in handy, didn't I? You can use these half ones as well. You don't have to use whole ones. You can go back and use some of the bits that you've got left over from the previous one. There's never any waste. So these are the little bits and pieces from the previous one. Again, it'll make your project look a little bit different, because I'm just using the bits and pieces. Why not? No point wasting something. What have we got here? Let's just let's add that on its side. So I'm now using the bits and pieces that I cut from the previous triangle here. There'll be bits again to cut off. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that your tree, the adhesives have all sort of hardened, so that you don't try and cut the edges of the tree, the triangle shape, and everything's moving around and it's wet. So there we go. We've covered all the areas, I think. Let's clean our area up. And I've still got a few little bits that I can use in other projects. But you don't waste anything, and that's the whole idea. So I can go to the back and just cut my little pieces off, and I end up with different leftover bits and pieces that I can use again. So let's go down, let's cut that off. Give your scissors a little bit of a clean afterwards. And don't be in too much of a rush. There we go. So I've got other bits and pieces left over there that I can use in a different project. I'll just give them scissors a wipe because I'm terrible. So it's that way, isn't it? So just bear with me while I turn the heating down because I'm being cooked. I'm either freezing or boiling hot. I can't win. Right, let's bring these in. So look at my card now. It's beautiful. Absolutely love that. Now you can give it a dry if you want. I'm just going to, I don't think there's anything lying on there, but I'll just blot it anyway. I'm not even going to bother to dry. Do you know what's hilarious? The house is so cluttered with Christmas stuff everywhere. Look at this. I've even got candles just stuck randomly on my craft desk. Why? Oh. Honestly, look at this, look. I've even got Christmas decorations on my desk. They're everywhere. And I just couldn't be bothered to finish it off. Oh dear, never mind. So let's just have a little play. So I'm thinking we could go like this. But hang on, let's grab our... oh, it's there. I'd already pulled the stamp out. Oh, I am dangerous at times. So let's see if our little barrel on the Hoster stamp set will go with it. So let's take that out. Let's take the little pot off there. So I'll have the little... Yes, it's going to look rather nice. So let's take... And the thing is, we can just cut it out. If it doesn't look right, well, we don't use it. We create our own pot. So let's have that. I love mixing up stamps. It does make me happy. So I'm using just Nocturne ink. With bits of glue everywhere. So let's use up... I'm terrible. I tend to stamp, and I'll stamp in the middle of a piece of card. I'm like, why are you stamping in the middle of the card? Use the end bits. Oh, and I've not even... Look, you see the black ink there? If I just tilt it, I've not even stamped it there. Oh, dear me. That's because I was waffling, you see. I was waffling. There we go, that's better. So let me just... So this is, the barrel is distressed, which is the way it should be. Doesn't really bother me that that's more distressed than it's supposed to be. So let's cut the barrel out. I don't think I'm going to leave a white edge with this. What's just fallen off? Little bits of clocks. So I'm just going to cut the barrel out. Let me just pick up the packaging for you just so you can see what it looks like. Where's the packaging? Just so you can see, the barrel is meant to be distressed, because it's actually distressed in my garden. So don't worry if you've got bits missing when you haven't pressed hard enough. It doesn't matter. Right, okay. Just scuff that a little bit. So I'm just sort of scuffing the card, just so it appears like, so if I do this with my finger, like this, press it down, because I've cut down a little bit, it just appears like it's more the barrel shape. Just works nicely. Now, do I want the two? If I put that up there, let's have the other one as well. And if you don't want the barrel distressed and you want to change it, I like the distressed, and I like touches of white in there because it looks better. It looks more like a pot than a blob. That's just me personally. Let's just move this out of the way. There's no out of the way anywhere I can put it. Now, just remember that if you touch the image like I just did, you are going to pick up a little bit of the ink because it's a VersaFine Clair and it stays open longer, it stays wetter longer. So I'm going to faff a little bit now. I'm going to drive you absolutely mad, just with a little bit of faffing. So what I want to do is get this in the right place first, but I don't want to do that yet. Let's just move this out of the way. And it's about playing. We're having some playtime, and that's what it's about. So let me just grab my anti-static bag and my embossing powder. We need our little heat tool. And then when you go to the cupboard, you pull everything else out at the same time. So let's have our heat tool, which won't stay on the cupboard. Let me grab my stamp. We want that one. I actually want my 30 days stamp. So I've got lots of ink on this background. I've had my fingers on there, there's moisture on there. So I'm going to use my anti-static bag, just to make sure that the embossing sticks where I want it to. And you can see there's no ink come off that because I've activated it with the water and it's not just sitting on the top. I'm then going to use my 30 days stamp set. It should be 992, not 922, 992. And it's called 30 days. So I'm going to use that one because it's rather apt for this. I need my Versamark ink pad. And a Versamark is a Versamark watermark stamp pad. It's one that I've used for over 20 years. And it's a sticky ink pad so that my embossing sticks to whatever I stamp. So I'm going to ink up 30 days has September, April, June and November, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to add that to some of my background. I'm not going to press particularly hard. I need some copier paper. And the reason I need some copier paper is because I can't actually see anything. I can't see where I've added the stamping because it's a rich blue background. So the best thing to do is just sprinkle my embossing powder now. And then I can perhaps see where the stamping is, which you can see there. So let's take our time and decide where we want to put a little bit more. So if the tree goes up here, I just want little bits of white. The problem is I never want to be too regimented. So I want a little bit of stamping up there, and I'm not pressing hard at all. So I'm just literally just adding bits of my stamping just here and there, just so that I've got a little touch of white in the background. And yes, it takes a little bit longer, but that doesn't matter. So I've got this up here. So I just need some down here for the moment, and I can always add a little bit more, but it always looks better if you add it before you try and add your 3D elements. But sometimes you can't do that every time. Again, I can't see where I've stamped. There we go. And I love, because it's just a touch of white, and that'll just make everything pop. So just take that Versamark again. Now, don't press too hard, because you don't want to squish the text. You don't want to squish the text so that you get like a double print. Just press that lightly. Okay, I'm picking up bits of clocks here, can you see? Bits of clocks everywhere. Let's just, there we go. And I'll just chuck that across the floor like I normally do. And then I'll grab my heat tool. So let's just give that a little bit of time to heat up. There's no point me going on to here with my heat tool unless it's heated up a little bit, because you're just wafting warm air that does nothing apart from bend your card even more. So we'll just allow that to heat up. Doesn't take long. I'm just going to lift the card up because it's easier for me to see when it actually does turn. And there it's going. So as it's turning, I can just lift that up a little bit more. And I've just pressed very lightly so that I just get parts of words, etc., just so it's a little bit more random. And once you've heated it, remember to move your heat tool so that you're not sitting on the same area that you've already heated and embossed, and then it'll go back to from glossy to flat if you heat it too much. So you just need to make sure that you move your heat tool. And it's very easy to see where you've embossed and where you haven't. Now that just gives me something to play with. It gives me something to work on. So let's grab our, what was I thinking before then? You know when you have a thought? Can't remember. So we just have this here. Bring this here. And this is why sometimes it's a good idea to take a photograph. So if I have this pot, let's have the very distressed pot here. There we go. And then let me grab. Now when I'm cutting my card blanks, I always get little strips like this of card. Let me just use that. So I just get these strips of card. So what I can do is I can just have a strip of card that will be like my tree base. So what I'm going to do is just cut a slit into my barrel. Let me just do that so you can see. Just add a slit into the barrel. Can you see that? There you go. Because then I can add this when I'm ready, just into here. Make it as short or as long as I wish onto the, with the barrel. So before I do that, I'm happy with that length. I'm going to be like this forever. Right, where's the, on the stag stamp, there's this Winter Wishes stamp. Let's just take that. So I like the fact the text is quite small. So what I need to do is reach for something that I can't reach. There we go. Now remember, I'm just going with the flow. So I'm going to take some low tack tape and I'm just going to cover up the wishes word with my low tack tape. So I'm covering up that wishes word. It is better if you haven't got so much rubbish lying around, and just ink up the word winter. Remove the low tack tape. And then type, I'm not typing anything. Stamp the winter word on there, we'll use that again. And then I'm going to use my Posca pen, my black one. Use my nails just to keep it down there. And just add a little faux black mat just to the edges. That's it. And then we'll just clean that up, or else I just end up in a total mess with black. Just give that a clean. I'll just give my hands a little bit of a clean, because they're very gritty and messy. So then we'll take this, and then I've got my winter in here. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to stick anything down, I'm going to faff for England, that's what I'm going to do. So this will go here, like this. But before I stick it down, I just want to see where I want to put that. Okay. Can you feel the cogs turning? Can you hear them turning? What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pin flare glue. And first of all, I'm going to adhere my triangle. Now, I can hand this to somebody, or I can put it in tissue and wrap it and send it. But if I'm making a special card or something very 3D, then you can hand it to somebody if you don't want to pay the postage. We won't do that yet. This is what faffing is all about. So let's just add some adhesive to the pot. So at the moment I've got all these bits just sort of sitting here that we're going to faff with. But now I can move these if they're not quite in the right place, because I'm using that pin flare glue. So let's push that under there, like so. So I've got my winter. And it's going to take me a bit of faffing, because that's Tracy all over. And then, if I get this, I hope you talk to yourself as much as I do. Bring that a bit further. So I definitely want that there. So we'll add some pin flare. just to my tree. Just make sure it makes contact with the card, because it's very easy just to make a mistake and it doesn't make contact. So that's got winter on there. Now we'll take the sentiment again. Let's just put the lid on that a minute. And what we'll do is we'll just clean that sentiment completely. Just so we've got rid of the ink. And then I'll use my low tack tape and cover the winter up this time. So cover the word winter up with my low tack tape. Just have to turn that over because it'll drive me mad if I lose the end. So let's just try that again. So cover the winter up, and this time we'll ink the wishes. Then remove the low tack tape, and then we'll add where we're going to add the wishes. Does help if you've got the thing the right size first. So let's cut this little piece of card. We'll push that up there. So let's, oh, we haven't cut a little slit in here, have we? So let's cut a slit in there, just so that we can place it in there. So let's put the wishes sort of in the middle-ish. You don't have to press hard, I was going to say. You can't even see that. Shall we try again? So I'm not measuring anything. And let's just try inking the wishes up again. Because Tracy was too gentle. So I'm now going to ink the wishes again. I don't know whether I've done this one long enough, but hey ho. That's it. So we've got wishes then. So let's add this to our little barrel, and then we'll take our pin flare and just add a good blob of pin flare. I can faff with this. You know what I haven't done, don't you? This is why when you get carried away, just add the black edge. But that's why it's good to work with something that isn't going to dry straight away, because if you're working off the cuff like me, you've got to be careful that you use the right glue. If you haven't got, look, that's a nice mess, just so that you don't adhere it down before you're meant to. I'll clear that up with some hand sanitizer later. Right, try again. So place this in here. That's it. Let's place the tree. You see, and I can keep moving as much as I wish, just to get that where I wish. So I've got my two trees, lovely jubbly. Let's just get some hand sanitizer, because that's going to drive me mad. So just put some hand sanitizer. I think I've actually, do you know when you've got something on your non-stick craft sheet that's been there ages, and that's just affecting the clean up? There we go. Just using some hand sanitizer. I like you to be involved in every part of the project, even the hand sanitizer bit. Let's just pick this up and you can see that you've got the winter wishes on there. So now, where's my stamp set, my stag stamp set? Let's add the winter wishes. Now, I need to do a bit of playing around with the plastic. So if you had the stag, got to put him on there with the clocks behind. I always feel that unless I've cut something out, it's very difficult to decide whether that's what I want. Let's move this, see if the stag is what. I always feel sometimes if you've got pieces cut out, I can definitely judge better. I've got enough card there, yeah. So let's take my black ink again. And it's actually the stag I want. I do love images that don't date, so you can keep using them year after year. But the thing I like about the stag as well is stag, I mean, I have stags that I keep out all year in my house that are just decorative pieces. You know, it's not, you know, it's associated with Christmas, obviously, but it can be something that you can use all year round. You know, there's lots of stags and lots of brown furniture and natural fabrics used with stags as well. There we go. So I'm going to cut this stag out, but not with all this card. Let's cut all this off. Just makes it slightly easier to do. Let's move that out of the way. In other words, chuck it on the floor. And then we'll just cut out this stag. And I don't need a white edge. I just need to cut it right to the edge. Just so that we can cut them out nicely, just so it's got that black edge. And again, it is an easy image to cut out. And for me, sometimes certain cards or projects, I love to have a cut-out piece. That hand sanitizer smells lovely. It really does. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep my fingers out of the way of the actual piece and try and keep my cutting out so that you can see it in camera, which is very awkward when you're used to cutting out and bringing it close to your body, which is what I'm used to doing. I'm just cutting these out. I do like the stag when it's cut out. And I will add some blue to the stag if I use him. Now this is your card. You can do whatever you wish with your card. If you want to just leave it like it is. I just love layers on cards. That's me. That's what I love doing. But I know some of you don't like lots of layers. So if you don't like lots of layers, you can pare that back. Everybody's different. And I have to remember to look. I get so engrossed when I'm cutting out. Sometimes I forget to look at the camera just to make sure that I'm actually in shot. So easy to do. Can you believe it's December? Because I can't. The year has gone so quickly. Probably still take me another 3 days to finish my Christmas decorations. I've been faffing that much. I seem to do it in bits and drabs. So it does look a little bit like Santa's grotto in our house at the moment. And you know, I read, it was in a group, I'm not in the group, but I think it's a public group. It's like a Christmas group. And one lady, I don't know whether she was in America or where, but she was decorating 26 trees. Here's me, can't decorate 1 tree. She's decorating 26 trees. Now that's dedication for you. I've got to get rid of this bit of card now. Can you imagine if I just chopped the head off now? I've done that before now. Cut something and then cut the head off. But I just like to have a little bit of card so it's not too cumbersome. Makes it easier. But it's definitely harder because normally when I'm cutting out, I'm holding it down here, and holding it up there is a little bit more difficult. I instantly love it. I know when it's in blue. Let's colour it and then we might know. Now, I'm not going to use any specific colouring mediums apart from the same Distress Oxide, which is Blueprint Sketch. So I'm going to use that Blueprint Sketch, pick up the water, which looks a little bit pinky, which I'm sure I've used pinky colours before. So we don't want to end up with any purples so take off the excess of the moisture, and I'm just going to pick up, and I'm going to load my brush with the pigment, which is the Distress Oxide. And I'm just going to add a little bit of colour just to my stag. Now, I always think that even if you're colouring very basically, which is the way I do it most of the time, you still need to sort of take your time. There's no point sort of rushing the process. So you can see I'm just sort of layering it around. I'm adding it or layering it around the edge just of my stag, just around the edge. Now, this is nothing special. It's just my oxide ink. Nothing special at all. So let's pick up a little bit more pigment. Just take off the excess moisture. You can't go anywhere if you add too much too soon. You just need to just take your time. Am I still in camera? So I'm just going around the edges. I'll worry about some of the little finer details shortly. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to flood my brush with water, take off a bit of the excess, and then I'm just sort of going to drag it out with some water so it's almost like, well, it's not almost like, it is a wash. It's just a wash of that colour. So I've just sort of, let me lift that up. I've really got just a wash of colour. I need to press that Distress Oxide again. Make sure I've got a bit of water. It doesn't matter that it's tinted blue because I'm using that colour anyway. And then I'm going to add a little bit more darkness around the edges. Just a little bit darker, just to give a little bit more depth. And we'll just do this little area at a time. I've added a little bit darker. Now let me just clean that brush. Make sure I've got some clean water. And then let's take a little bit of that water off, because if it's flooding, it's just too much. You just want to make sure that that colour just sort of moves out a little bit. And like anything, it just takes a bit of time. You don't want to be in too much of a rush. Take off the excess and then you can just blend out, almost with a dry brush, that pigment. And if you do a small area at a time, I always find it easy. So can you see, let me lift this up. It's really dark there. So if I take off the excess and then use almost a dry brush, let me see if I can lift it up. You can blend that out almost with a dry brush, just that area. Take off the excess again and then blend it out. And if your brush is a bit too dark, water it down and blend out a little bit more. And it sort of blends out to nothing with the darkness here. So I'm going to pick up this dark colour again, and then I'm going to add the dark colour just here. So let me show you again. It's very dark there and just a straight line. Use my water, take off the excess on a bit of kitchen roll, lift this up again, and then you can just move the pigment so it's not so dark, but you still got the dark edge. But you need to sort of build that up. Take off the excess and drag out that colour. Pick up the extra colour here, and then when you've got too much, take off the excess colour and just drag that out. Sort of dragging it out with almost a dry brush. If you use too much of a wet brush, it just floods it and you don't get any contrast. So and leave some of the white in the centre area here, so it just gives you some light and dark. And then with an almost dry brush, go in with a little bit more of the darker colour. Just so that you're just giving a definite dark and light. But sometimes we add too much water and then there's nowhere to go, just floods it out. Just use a little bit of a water at a time, and then you get a nice layering of colour. Little bit of water, take off the excess, and I can just blend that out a little bit. And it just sort of gives me a dark edge, but with this lighter area in the centre. I'll just add a little bit of dark just here. Take off that excess and the excess moisture. And just blend that out. There we go. I think that's nice enough. Where's my... Nobody knows where the wipe is that I was using. Let's just... Now, I can easily let that rest and add some more of the colour, should I wish. No problem at all. I can make it a little bit darker. And so let's bring in this card. And then I can just... It's going to be layered up like so. So just decide where you want to add it. Add a look at your picture. You see it looks quite nice there. So keep moving it round while you're in camera. and I want to still see the two trees. So what I'm going to do is put a good blob of pin flare, but not on the antlers. So just sort of, you want to still see your trees. There we go. You still want to see those trees. Let's just make sure this pin flare is pushed up, or else you end up in a right mess. Let me place that sentiment back. And then I'm just going to add some splatters. Give that pen a little bit of a shake. And then pump the pen so that it's flowing nicely. And then you can just add your splatters to your background. Now move your card around so that you hit different areas. Now it doesn't matter how many splatters you put on. With these kind of cards, it adds to the snowy effect. So it doesn't really matter. Let's take our time and just add. And it's, your splatters come really easily when you've pumped the pen and given it a shake. There we go. I'll just wipe that bit of extra. So this is what we've got so far with all our dimension. We're just going to add that to our card blank because we will add some other bits as well. So really, I'm asking for trouble. One, because this card is so big, there's a little flying something or other in the house. Now, I'm asking for trouble. Really, you would let this dry. You wouldn't try to tip it up like I'm doing and adhere it. You would let that dry, because if you let it dry and it's solid, it is so much easier to adhere to your card blank. And there is no rush. You can just take your time. So I'm going to add, and you also wouldn't try to add it when you've got splatters of white all over your card. Let's just take our time and press this down. To be fair, the Posca pen has dried quite quickly. I was quite surprised. So just press that down. Press it down in the middle as well. Doesn't matter if you move the stag a little bit, you can easily move that back. So just press those down. If you've moved your trees a bit, you can go back. We haven't quite finished yet. So you can see that. Let's move this out of the way. Right, I just want to get a little bird. So bear with me. How many stamps can one person get out? I'm going to take the stag stamp. No, this is not a stag stamp. This is my scarecrow stamp for this little bird here. So grab this little bird, which has fallen out because he's used that much, aren't you? And you're losing your stickiness, poor thing. If I gave it a little wipe, that would help. It is filthy because it has been used that much. Poor little bird. Right. Let's take our little bird and the scrappiest piece of card I've got. Let's use that black ink. You see, I can instantly, now I've placed the design onto the card blank, I can see I need some more splatters on the stag. I've got everything all over my hands. Let's just cut sort our little bird out. And it'll probably take me half an hour to clear all my mess up like it always does. But I like to clean up after each sort of creative session because it just clears my head for the next session. There we go. I want to add a little, don't want it, see I was going to add it on the stag, but I don't know whether I like it on the stag because there's another bird I prefer on the stag. So we'll add him there. Let's just add some white. But you can add a bird. I've got a different bird. Let me just. I've got a different bird that sits on top of the stag a little bit better. So I think I'm going to put him there. So just add that there. There we go. Don't hide the word wishes, Tracy. I don't think I've got... I'm completely missing the adhesive, totally, which is the hilarious bit. I'm like trying to stick it down and I'm not even touching. You have to bear with me. He's going to have to go into the barrel a little bit. It looks more natural. So then I just want to add some splatters to the stag. Now that's better. It just didn't look right. That's better. So we'll just grab the stag wording. I've got glue all over my hands. Which stag wording do I want? That one. Let me just see what else I've got. Antlers, fearless. Let me just see if I've... This is when my mind works overtime. Let me just see if I've got anything. I don't think I've got anything in there. No, there's nothing in there. So let's just stamp. I've just chucked winter wishes all across the floor. Winter wishes. Let's just stamp the word stag. Let's move this out of the way because I know what's going to happen. So we'll just take this word stag. And just stamp that. So that preferably you can see what I'm doing. That word stag. There we go. Grab my bigger scissors. Let's have our little Posca pen. Completely missed the edge anyway. And I bet you can't. Oh, you can. Do you know, I thought I'd just moved out of camera then. Let's grab some copy paper just so that we don't lean on any messy areas. Could just add the word stag there. Just add a little bit of adhesive there. Just need that to grab hold, so I just hold it for 30 seconds and it grabs hold nicely. And then, oh, come here. I just want my gold Posca pen. So I've got my gold Posca pen. Let's move those out of the way just to add a few splatters of gold. Just to give it a few touches of gold. Move your card around so you hit different areas each time. There we go. And we'll just lift the card up just so that you can see. And you've got your bird on there, your winter wishes. Everything is dimensional, just so that you can see that. It's totally dimensional, which works really nicely. Now, if you've got a sentiment that says Christmas time, then you could add Christmas time, as in with the clocks. It'd work quite nicely. Let me just move that a little bit because I'm a pain. But I'm really pleased with that. So I hope you've enjoyed the process. I know I have. You could easily add some little frothy bits as well to your pots, but I like it just as it is. So I hope you enjoyed the process. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.